Okay, good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock. It's 6 o'clock on June the 3rd, 2019. Time to call the Franklin City Council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Allen?
Here.
Mr. Austin?
Here.
Mr. Blankenship?
Here.
Mr. Eggers?
Here.
Mr. Hugen? Mr. Richards?
Here.
Mr. Wertz?
Here.
Sir, we have a forum.
Thank you. Mr. Wertz, would you do the prayer and pledge, please?
Okay. Let's bow our heads. Father, be with the Franklin first responders, the police and fire departments who provide our city's safety. Be with our military men and women around the world who protect our many freedoms. Be with all city workers who provide the many services. And Father, be with the mayor, our attorney, and city council as we conduct the business of our city. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you all for being here. Good to see you again, Ava. Glad you're here. Two Adam's granddaughter, by the way. Do we have any announcements, presentations, announcements?
Good evening, City Engineer Mark Richards. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce two new employees that we have. First, Olivia Norris. She is going to be a sophomore at Valparaiso University, majoring in civil engineering. She is an intern with us this year, along with Hunter Gross, who is not here tonight, but he will be a junior majoring in civil engineering at Purdue. So the other employee is our new project manager, Alec Myers, and it's going to be very confusing. We've got Alex Schedule, Joanna Myers, and now Alec Myers. So bear with us. Alec is the new project manager. He will be assisting with a lot of the federal aid projects and local projects that we have. So it's going to take some of the load off me, but I'll let you ask any questions of him that you might want to find out more information.
I understand why the Purdue grad isn't here.
The Valpos are taking over.
The Valpos are taking over.
Thank you.
Hey, do we have any presentations? How about public comments? Hearing none, we will move on. Consent agenda.
Move to approve the minutes from 5/2019.
Second.
Second by Mr. Austin, he was Mr. Richards. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we will go into old business, which this is when, Mr. Austin, you want to ask the read title only?
Move to read all business by title only.
Second.
Second by Mr. Eggers. Thank you. This will be a public hearing. Common council resolution.
Read by title.
Read by title only. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I want this to be as fast as our last meeting, but it's not going to be. Common Council Resolution number 19-06, approving a lease between the City of Franklin Redevelopment Authority as leaseor and the City of Franklin Redevelopment Commission as leasee, and pledge local income tax revenues tabled from previous meeting. RDC Attorney Rob Shastall.
Good evening. Rob Shopstall, Redevelopment Commission, Redevelopment Authority. So this has changed since you last saw it. So I guess we need to start there. When you saw this about a month ago or so, the property that was being leased was Jefferson Street. And after some discussions with your city attorney and having a better understanding of the relinquishment agreement with the state, we are now leasing North Main Street. So the document you're looking at now is North Main Street. So I want to maybe just talk in general terms about what we're doing and then see if you have any questions. So the big picture is we're trying to borrow $10 million. And that, to me, that sounds like a lot of money, and maybe it does to you, but you know, that kind of money gets borrowed all the time. And we ought to be able to go out and get that money without any problem. The problem, though, is that the Indiana Constitution says that a city can't borrow more than 2% of its assessed valuation. And in talking to Jeff Peters, the city's financial advisor, is Jeff here? No. In Franklin's case, what that means, that's about $6.4 million. So the total amount of money that the city of Franklin could borrow based upon what we have in this city is about $6.4 million in general obligation bonds. And most people, I think, would advise you not to do that unless you really have to. Because once you borrow that, you've used up that cap. For example, you can't borrow $6.4 million this year and then go out next year and borrow another 6.4. It's not every year, it's a cumulative cap based upon the size of your assessed valuation. So that's a real problem, and nobody is recommending that we try to borrow that on a general obligation bond. The Indiana legislature many years ago recognized that as a cap that works a hardship on cities. So they created a statutory financing structure that involves the redevelopment authority. On the school side of this, it's a school corporation, and in some other settings it's called different things, but what you end up doing is you end up creating a lease. And the lease of an asset justifies the money flowing, but that's not a debt. So it doesn't count against your 2% constitutional debt cap. I know that sounds crazy. That's crazy talk, right? But that's the way it works.
That's what we do.
And it's not only passed the muster of the Indiana State Legislature, but it's also passed court muster. And it's been recognized throughout the state as a permissible way to do the projects that you want to do without having to violate the 2% cap. So the reason that this deal looks the way it does is to get around that cap. If we weren't trying to get around the cap, this could be a simple bond that doesn't involve leasing North Main Street or anything like that. So that's kind of the background. That's the reason the deal looks the way it does. So what you're being asked tonight to do is to pass the resolution that would allow this project to go forward. And there's some nuance here, and there's really no correct place to start. So if you have questions, let's just try to address them as we go. But first things first. So in this document that you're being asked to consider, you would be consenting to the transfer of North Main Street from the city to the Franklin Redevelopment Authority. The only purpose for that is to allow the Redevelopment Authority to lease North Main Street and some roundabouts to the Redevelopment Commission for up to 25 years. And the amount of the TIF money that the Redevelopment Commission is going to pay each year for leasing that North Main Street and roundabouts is the same amount of money that the Redevelopment Authority is going to have to pay the bondholders on the $10 million debt that it goes out and gets to do the new US 31 redo and the Youngs Creek Trail. So it's all linked. When the lease ends, the lease will end when the bond's paid off, which will be up to 25 years. It could be sooner, but when that happens, North Main Street reverts back to the city. It will never close, it will never be blockaded, it will never be tolled, it will never be sold. And the reason is because the bondholders are looking for money. They're not looking for the street. So there's no incentive on anybody's part to mess with the streets because they're only being used to justify the TIF money rolling through.
Okay, so we'll still plow the streets, right?
Still plowing, but we'll still have to maintain
You
it.
see you smile, but
There are some parameters built into this deal. Sorry, yes.
The Main Street between US 31 and Jefferson Street, does that fall in the TIF district that follows 31?
It
Because
is
the
in,
TIF district's gonna be where we get the money to pay the bond.
it's in the spending district. We are not capturing any new taxes up and down North 31, excuse me, up and down Main Street. Okay, let's ask it again. I'll make sure I understand what you're asking me.
I just marked between North Main Street, between US 31 North and Jefferson Street. It's gonna be bond, and the TIF is gonna pay for it. And the TIF is a 31 corridor. We had those red lines, but I didn't see, it's on both sides, but I didn't see it where it went through the street. The street was not in that red section we got 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, or the RDC.
Right, because I don't think it is. I think it's the collateral that we're using to secure.
I thought we could only spend the TIF dollars.
Two different things. Go ahead, Rob. Pick it up, because I had those same questions.
Okay. So the way I read this, I thought it had to be in the
It,
section or
it,
be in it.
it does in terms of, go ahead and answer it, Rob, 'cause you.
Yeah, so we have you can think about the way this TIF works in terms of where the taxes are coming from. And those are called allocation areas, and there's only a couple of them. Out by 65, Mitsubishi, Tech Park, Meyer, Kroger. Meyer and Kroger and the surrounding strip area on those two sites are the only allocation areas in this US 31 TIF. So the money that we're capturing is from the Kroger site and the Meyer site, and that's not changing. We are permitted to spend that TIF money up and down that entire 31 area.
on the west side.
Yeah.
But not this part that we are using as collateral to be able to do that.
Right. In addition, we are permitted to make lease payments on any assets that the redevelopment commission leases. So it's a kind of an apples and an oranges type of.
So it's not changing where you're going to spend the money, it's not changing where you're going to allocate it from. It's simply saying we're going to use this as the collateral to be able to do this.
So is that what section 3 on page 2 is?
Page 2 of.
Pledge of pledge LIT revenue.
No, so I'll get there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, yeah, good. So if we went out into so the way this works is we're gonna hire, we've already hired an underwriter, which is the person that goes to Wall Street and the money people and says, anybody want to loan us $10 million? And those investors are going to say, how are you gonna pay us back? And we could say, well, we've got some money coming from real estate taxes off of Kroger and Meyer, and they're gonna say that's not good enough. Because what are you gonna do if Kroger folds? Like Marsh did, or IGA, or Brown's Regal Market. Sure. And so they're not gonna loan, and no, if you can find someone who's gonna loan you $10 million on your grocery store, you should probably take it. So they're not going to do that. What they're going to require is a property tax backup. And in this case, the property tax backup that we're wanting to use is called your local income tax. That's assessed through the county. And that's currently happening, and we're currently using that. So we have to pledge the local income taxes to the bondholders in order to sell this bond. So that's what that section means. Okay. The intention, however, is not to use our local income taxes to pay the bonds. The intention is to use our TIF money off of the Meyer and Kroger developments. And as long as that happens, as long as we have enough money coming off the Kroger and Meyer developments, that's where these bond payments are going to come from, those TIF monies. It's only if that doesn't happen for some reason, that our local income taxes will be touched.
That's the security part.
Yes.
Look at the local taxes.
It's worded formally, I mean, the bondholders are going to see that we are pledging our local income taxes. Right. I mean, that's a fact, we are. But behind the scenes, we're going to be using our TIF money throughout the entire bond. 25 years of it is our intention. But if we can't, for whatever reason, something goes bad, there's an earthquake up on the north side and both those businesses shut down, our local income taxes are going to have to pay the bond. And our financial advisors have told us that that's quite doable because we're running a surplus already. And if we had to divert the local income taxes toward the bond, we'd be able to fill the gap with, other TIF revenue or from other sources. Jane?
But it is only the local income tax off of North Main Street and the two in the roundabouts, correct? Or is it all?
No, that's not correct. It's the entire city,
Cities,
the
local.
available local income tax.
Okay.
Good question.
I do have a question on this there's a man on the bus that come up with this idea for road building, and added in our local income taxes. Right, if that ever took place. So that effect, you know what I'm talking about right now? Mayor Hallstatt talking about having a regional type of kind of road plan, and basically it's a commuter tax we talked about before, about taking our local income tax and then shifting that up north, or shifting it to, there's loads of us that do work up in Marion County. But how would that, I'm just saying, I can't see that happening because the regional mayors, they're not up for that.
I'm not sure I can address that specific proposal, but I can tell you that what we're agreeing to is that we would be making those bond payments even if our local income taxes dried up.
I felt good about us, I was just curious on that, because I know that 31's gonna be blown up here, and that's gonna be, we're gonna, once we get this road work, this carpet done here, I think, our development on 31's gonna help, definitely pay for it. I'm sure you brought that up probably, but I was just curious how that would impact us.
Well, I have met with folks that, I'll tell you, I'm not in favor of it. I'll just go on the record and say that. And like you said, some of the other regional mayors, they're not either.
Yeah, it was kind of like out of the blue, and basically he just reworded the commuter tax, which basically just soaked up all our local income tax.
Well, they would just raise your tax.
That-
It'd be a new tax.
Yeah.
And I'm not in favor of that, so.
So 14 years we haven't raised more taxes that I know.
Well, back to the point here, with the $10 million, can you touch on what we're gonna get for the $10 million?
$10 million.
Yes, so there's the $10 million is going to be divided into two pots. One pot for about $5 million or so that will be used for the engineering of the US 31 redo, and that will be done in coordination with the state, NDOT, and will hopefully produce a design that suits our community and is not just overlaid on top of us by state bureaucrats. That's the idea. The other pot of about $5 million would be used for the Youngs Creek Trail renovation, redevelopment, which would include the amphitheater, trails, the park area, the venues, and all the other things going in.
And then with us going in with the state, our $5 million, they're gonna invest right at $40 to $45 million. So that's what the big picture is that kind of investment into our city.
And I'd like to say too, finally, the north side, like Millwood Farms, North Point, Pendleton, all that is connected through trails and stuff. That's why I'm excited about the project. I wish I was here to see it finish out. But, I know it's kind of hard doing two things at once, but I think this is a better shot, getting all our money at once instead of trying to do one thing now and one thing later.
Along with that, Mayor, the second pot, the Young's Creek and the amphitheater and all of that, I know that's still a lot of speculation and we're uncertain, and we've started the plan. If that comes in less than the 5 million, are we gonna spend it or is it gonna go back?
We can go either way. I would say it goes back because it has to be spent either in that along 31 or in that area where the amphitheater is at. It can't go outside of that area, correct?
That's right.
And we've done that before, but in other projects that the money's, the money has gone back that we haven't spent. So.
In terms of timing, if you are inclined to approve this tonight, then at the upcoming, let's see, next, on the June 18th redevelopment commission meeting will be a public hearing on this entire bond issue. And then we would be looking to close on the bonds in the middle of August. That's when we would receive the funds. If you have any other questions, I know it's an odd triangle I'm proposing to you, but.
Would you, or Krista, prepare a new, how that is gonna work for the closing? Because before you did something that had all the dates,
Yes, yes,
so now it's August?
yes. Yes. Yeah, I'm happy to have that just redistributed to you. It's an updated timetable.
Okay.
I think one's been generated, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got
I've seen
it. I've got it here. I just don't have an extra copy.
Yeah, give you a copy. I've seen it.
Gotta check your government email with you.
That's it? I didn't do that this weekend.
This is going to be a public hearing, and I would, if anybody from the, if it's okay to go ahead now, since we seem to be so I'd like to open this up for a public hearing. We've heard what Rob's had to say, we've heard some questions from the council. So if anybody in the crowd has any questions, now would be the perfect time to bring it up. It's a public hearing. Ask Rob any questions that you may have.
No questions, Rob. So I'm from the library, and we have our own bond issue we're interested in. But from our financial advisors, they talked that LIT is not a possible backup for a GEO bond.
So this isn't a GEO bond.
It's not a GEO bond,
Right.
okay.
We're avoiding, we are we're sidestepping that. And instead, this is called a lease revenue bond.
Right.
But it's-
That's probably just for municipalities or TIF RDCs.
I don't know if the library could do that.
I don't think so. All right, thanks.
That was Lisa Littner, by the way, from the library, had any questions, just for the record.
So Rob, I know that you've been a catalyst in designing some of the most incredible things for the city over the years, to include one of our first areas. So I have total confidence in this and Lynn's review and approval, the mayor's approval, I think this is what we need to do to move forward, to get this taken care of and done properly, legally, and not put our city at risk of bankruptcy, so to speak.
I wouldn't want that name.
No. That's what I'm saying. So, and I appreciate your efforts, Rob. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that wants to ask a question before we close the public hearing? Aaron, Sean, Les. Les is part of the redevelopment authority. We did appoint Les, Josh, and Irene Allen on the redevelopment authority. Which Irene's not here, but we did appoint 3 people already. So is there, you guys have any questions? Okay, hearing no questions, I want to close the public hearing. So now I need more questions from council.
Go and get started.
We make a motion to approve resolution 19-06.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
It was a hearty guy, too. You guys rented up.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, that gets in the new business.
Move to read all new business by title only.
Second. Second by Mr. Allen. Before we get into the new business, if I can get out of order just a little bit, all three, the first 3 of these have to do they go hand in hand with each other. So I want to explain why all 3 of these are on the agenda. The community crossings grant, we know we got $1 million. And we had match, and we already appropriated that match, was $500,000 out of our MVH fund, $225,000 out of Board of Works, and then our LRS, local road and streets, $175,000. That was our match that gets us the $2 million worth of paving that's going to be done in the city this year. The project's already been bid. I think Mark's got the contract back, and he's going to meet with the contractor soon to get started on that. The next thing that we have going on, we've already bid out it's already done, I believe, $400,000 worth of alley paving this year. And I'm going to stop there just for a second. Mark has told me if we keep the pace we're going with the alleys, that in the next 4 years, we could be done with all our alleys being paved in the whole city. I think that's quite remarkable. They haven't been paved in over 25 years. And then we have $200,000 more of paving because the $1 million grant, the $2 million, it actually come in $2,192,000. So we have an overrun there. The roundabout, we had a $300,000 overrun that the RDC didn't cover. Main Street parking lot, we had a $27,000 overrun that they didn't, that RDC did not cover. And then the active adult center, we bought a used bus, really a good deal that Brett found, 14,000 miles on a bus for about $44,000. So that was a pretty good buy. And then the amphitheater project with Shrewsbury is about a $95,000 contract just to get started. And they are started. They've already started, did some work without getting paid. We have to give a plan of what we're going to do down in this area, for the buyout area. Then we give that initial plan to DNR. Then we go back, get the permits, and then DNR will allow us to tear down those buildings. I wish they would fall down, but we have to wait. It's kind of sad that we have to wait for DNR to say, yeah, you can tear the building down, because it is in a floodway. So that works about $1,077,000. And then we have
Mayor, did you work out with Paris because in their time frame up?
Rob and I did meet with Mr. Paris. They're supposed to be out to August 1st. And that's pretty much how we read that. Yeah. He knows he has to be out on August 1st. Let's just say it was pretty straightforward. And then we got some potential projects, which would be the Paris Estates concrete work. We all know the Paris Estates is having trouble with concrete falling apart. We've had some of our street department people doing some of that work, and which they do a great job, but it would take 5 years to do that. And for one shot, we can do like we did at North Point last year and get it done. That's about $250,000. I'm talking potential projects now. It's not projects that we've said we're going to do. The next one is railroad arms. Okay, that's a new one. We've got a grant to put railroad, and this is a county-wide grant to put railroad crossing arms at every railroad crossing in Johnson County. And it's actually was scheduled to be, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, it's either next year or the year after. And they are looking, the railroad is now wanting to move that up. Well, our matching part of that is somewhere around 250,000, it may be more, we don't know exact, but that is the number that we plugged into it. And then there's some more road maintenance, the Rejuvatech, which is where you see we put on like a cooler with the sand, which kind of helps bring the roads back and prolong the life of it. Then the crack seal, road maintenance, 75,000. And then we're working on the dumpster enclosures, it's $100,000, so that's $775,000. The total of what we've already contracted, potential projects, $1,852,000. Okay, the funding source for that would be, if you approve as we go through these ordinances, which is just introduction tonight. In 2016, we had a local optional income tax special distribution. And Jane, I don't remember exactly what that was in 2016, but there's $366,000 left over from that. And that has to be used on roads or road maintenance. So we have those funds, we just need to appropriate it. And then just last Friday, we had a local income tax special distribution that hit our bank account for $522,495. We can appropriate that to use for this shortfall. And then in the rainy day fund, we can appropriate $775,000. And then in the Board of Works, we have $175,000 that's not appropriated. So that was my reason to put all these on the agenda tonight and go through this of what we've got for projects for the year. And we may not do all this, but I would rather do it all at one time and not come back to the council 2 or 3 different times every time we get ready to do a project. And if we don't use this, we simply do like we did this year when we rolled $552,000 back into the rainy day fund. We will do the same thing next year if this is not all used. I don't foresee us using all these funds, but like I said, I don't want to have to keep coming back and asking for money out of the rainy day fund for every single project. Also, right now, we currently have a big surplus in our rainy day fund, which is $4,693,706, and minus the $775,000 out of the rainy day is going to give us $3,918,706 still in the rainy day fund. And that's well over what we need in the rainy day for emergency situations. So, with saying that, is there any questions before we go on to the resolutions? That's just for introduction today.
Mayor, on the arms, is that covering every intersection, rural and city in Johnson County? And is that just Franklin's share of costs with the railroad picking up the balance?
That's Franklin's share, and I want to caution you, it could be more money than that. However, we think we have enough money to cover that because we've estimated some of this high. So it could be more, it could be less, but that's Franklin's share because every municipality has to pay their share of it.
And that's in the city limits, or is that throughout our district, so to speak?
It's in our district. Yeah. No, it's in our city limits.
City
And
limits.
then the county's responsible for the county railroads. Greenwood's responsible for theirs, Whiteland's responsible for theirs. Mark, correct me, but I don't think Edinburgh is in this.
How many unmarked do we have in the city limits right now? Unmarked.
I think we have 6.
I think we only have one that has gate arms and the flashing signals, and that's at Jefferson Street. There may be one at ours as well, but I don't recall exactly. This will cover all of the crossings, the railroad crossings within the city of Franklin, the amount that the mayor is asking for. There, like you said, there's several entities involved. City of Greenwood, Town of Whiteland, Johnson County, City of Franklin. Edinburgh is not included. This is a grant to the Indianapolis Metropolitan Planning Organization. That does not extend all the way down to Edinburgh, so there's 3 or 4 crossings in the southern part of the county that this does not cover, but it will cover the bulk of it. And it's a 90% federal grant, 10% local match. It covers design, it covers construction, and it covers inspection.
Do you have any input on design, or that's how you, they're not all gonna be the same, right? They'll be different.
Well, they'll all be different. They'll be based on railroad requirements. They have very stringent requirements as far as the design parameters. All of them will be fairly straightforward, except for 2 crossings in Franklin. The one near the community center on south, they call it the State Street crossing, and then the crossing at Lyndhurst, which is several roads coming in at one point, and with the rail spur that shoots off at that location, there's going to be additional cost because they'll have multiple gates, so the traffic cannot get caught with it, within any of the crossing areas. They're still working out the details on that, but these are going to be just your standard railroad crossings with the gate arms that come down and the flashing signals. There may be a couple of them that have the overhead, the cantilever lights that go up high over the road, but other than that, it's going to be fairly standard. The city will then be responsible for pavement markings and any signage approaching the crossing, because that's outside the road, the railroad right of way. So we'll have to take care of that.
So technically, the railroad will own them, and they'll be responsible for maintenance and
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah.
But we did have the one on Jefferson Street was just knocked down a few weeks ago, and the railroad was here just like that to fix it, so.
Yeah, I called the railroad as soon as we were notified, and they already had someone on the way.
That sounds to me like a really great project, 90% funding
Yeah.
for our community.
But we want to be cautious too. It could happen this year or maybe next year, but we wanted to have it available for this year. And there's one other thing, we're not specifying, I'm just giving you a rough estimate. In the ordinances, there's no breakdown exactly of what we're spending on each project. I just wanted to give you the estimates we had. There was one more that was left off that by mistake left off. Lynn is working with BJ Deppy, the Masonic home. They have about 1,000 grave sites. Just to give you a heads up, this could be coming later this year. There's 1,000 grave sites at our graveyard that the Masonic home owns. And they want to get out of the graveyard business because they sell about one every 5 years. And we are looking to buy that for $150,000, those 1,000 sites, $50,000 down, $25,000 a year for 4 years. And we get, in return, sell those chips, is it $800 a piece?
More than that.
So, okay, so I'm thinking that's kind of a no-brainer when you start adding it up, so just so.
We don't want to tell them what we sell them for.
Yeah. So I just wanted to know that that's coming down the pike, and this would, what we're doing here would cover that. We didn't have to come back and ask for that.
And to add on to that, the Masonic Home very much wants us to have them back.
They approached me about
In the
it.
30s or when the cemetery was started, it was the way they bought a bunch of that land to help the city. Quite frankly, back when it was created from Greenlaw, it was generally a way for them to give some money. And they just kept those graves, and we could use them. We've got, we're a growing community, so they are more than willing to, basically let us purchase them back for pennies on the dollar and let us get back to grave business.
So then now that I've just about laid every project out for the rest of the year, I can go home and rest for a while.
Well, you mentioned Chip, now I'm sure he's gonna be coming to us with money now.
All right, so is there any more questions on that before we get into the introduction of the ordinances?
Mayor, thanks for making the sheet and breaking it down. I appreciate doing that. I think it serves the council well to see it in detail. I asked for it and you did it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay. All right, we go to new business. Did we hear read by title only?
We did.
Okay, we already did that, so. Okay, number one, Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 19-07, an additional appropriation from Lowell Special Distribution Fund in the amount of $366,405.17. This is the fund that has been there since 2016 and can be used for roads. I will say that this is introduction only, so no action taken. Mayor McGinnis, he used, I can't remember how much this was, but I think the guys that was on the council, when we got this, Mayor McGinnis bought some city vehicles, which actually got us up to speed on our vehicles that was getting old and falling apart.
Right.
And did some paving work on Wayne Street. That helped pave for Wayne Street, part of it. So that's the first one. Second one, introduction only. Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 19-08, an additional appropriation from Rainy Day Fund in the amount of $775,000. I guess there are any questions as we go through these? I mean, we just more or less kind of talked about it. Okay, the next one for introduction only, Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 19-09, an additional appropriation from the general fund in the amount of $522,494. That is the special distribution that we just got in the bank account Friday. So don't make it sound like I can't wait to spend it just because we got it Friday. This I didn't know. So we was hoping it would get here so we can take care of our business. So, is there any questions on those three before we move on? Okay, thank you. We'll be voting on those the next city council meeting. Item number 4, Redevelopment Commission Annual Report. Redevelopment Commission Attorney Rob Schaffstall. Rob, I tried to say your name right, but I know I don't do it.
Say it any way you want to say it.
You see Rob, didn't you?
Three letters.
Rob Shopstall, Redevelopment Commission Attorney. The new state law came out last year that requires the Redevelopment Commission to give an annual report to all of the overlapping taxing units as to what they're doing and where the money's going and what the impact is on the other taxing units. And those taxing units have been invited to your meeting tonight, so some of them are here. I'm going to go through this again at the June 18th Redevelopment Commission meeting. If anybody's not here, they can catch it then. First things first, your financial advisor, Jeff Peters, has prepared a tax impact analysis, and I'm going to hand that out to you. But before I do, I've been in enough classrooms before when as soon as somebody hands you something, you start reading it, you don't listen to what they're saying, right? So I want to finish telling you what I want to tell you before I show you the paperwork. There are several conclusions that we can reach from this analysis, but I think that the big takeaway is on the last page of Jeff's report, and it's his last sentence. And I'll tell you what it says. I'll try to tell you what it says in simple speak. The Redevelopment Commission is capturing real estate taxes in these allocation areas. And if we didn't, and from that, we get several $1 million a year. If we didn't do that, and we released back into the wild this $76 million of assessed value, the other taxing units would only be able to generate about $600,000. Okay? This is, you'll see this on Jeff's report. The reason for that is that, I don't know if you've ever spent any time looking into how these calculations actually work, but it's nearly insane. But the bottom line is that if you take $1 out of this pot, it affects these pots. The formulas are all linked and everything changes. You take a piece of property off the assessed value, you're going to change the circuit breaker, you're going to change the tax rates. It's really complicated, and we would not be able to do this on our own. But with Jeff's help, what he's showing us is that by the redevelopment commission keeping its assessed value, we make about $5 million in revenue in various ways. But if we were to give it up, everybody else would only make $600,000. So there is no other better mechanism, financial mechanism going right now than to let the redevelopment commission keep working. Because if you don't, it's not going to trickle back to the other taxing units. And everybody thinks that's dollar for dollar, and it is not. So I'm going to hand this out to you, and what you'll see is that there's a page that shows what happens in Franklin Township, and there's a page that shows what happens in Needham Township, and then there's a page that shows a summary. And I'll walk through all of this with you. And then if anybody has any questions, then I'll try to answer them. If I can't, we'll get Jeff back in here next month and get an answer.
Well, while Rob's doing that, I just dawned on me, I did make a mistake of saying Irene Alley's name a while ago for the redevelopment authority. It's actually Bob Nutt on Mains. I don't know if you guys know Bob Nutt. So I made a mistake there. Got that straightened out. Now I feel better.
Okay. So you'll see that Jeff's got a cover page, tax impact for the annual presentation of taxing units. The second page is the table of content. Third page shows the Franklin Township. And if we could all turn to that, I'll explain what's happening here. So on page 3 of this handout, tax impact Franklin Township, you'll see that about in the middle of the page, I'm going to just point here. If you see this number, there's a $76 million number here. That's the 2019 TIF assessed value, $76,000. So if that's the number in Franklin Township, we've got $76 million in our TIF allocation areas. If we were to release that back to the other taxing units, then you'll see on the left side of the page, there's a box that says estimated reduction of the circuit breaker, $462,000. So the effect on the circuit breaker would be to benefit everybody by about $462,000. And then there'd be some minor other tax implications. And if you see down on the bottom right then of the first page, you'll see a total impact for each of the taxing units in Franklin Township. So you'll see Johnson County would benefit to the tune of $72,000. Franklin Township would benefit to the tune of $2,800. Franklin City, $228,000. Franklin School, $211,000. Johnson County Library, $9,000. Johnson County Solid Waste, $1,000. So if we were to return $76 million of assessed value and not take any more TIF revenue from that, it would only benefit the other taxing units $525,000.
It's amazing.
On the next page, the same thing happens for Needham Township, what the effect is in Needham Township. And I'll just read it aloud just so the public can hear me. But if we have about $78 million of assessed value in the allocation areas in Needham Township, and that's mostly the tech part. If we were to return that assessed value back to the other taxing units, it would have a bump up on the circuit breaker of $17,000. Johnson County would have a total benefit of $30,000, Needham Township $42, Franklin City $43,000, Franklin School $7,000, Johnson County Library $362, and Johnson County Solid Waste District $40, for a total return to those other taxing units of $81,000. So if you look at the next page, you'll see what the total summary is then. I'll just take the library, for example, because as mentioned earlier, if we weren't going to collect any more TIF, the library would receive about $10,000 more than it currently does.
We want more than that.
So I'm an advocate, I suppose, but my advocacy is that the community at large benefits more from the redevelopment commission doing its work than if we didn't do any work.
And Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, and I've spoke several times about this, and I hope I was right when I spoke. By the redevelopment commission doing their work, and we're spending in allocated areas that we're not collecting in, we're actually raising the assessed values, which helps the library and the schools get more money because we're spending money in the right places to help with the assessment.
Not this way. All ships rise. Jeff prepared a commentary on the 4th page. That's actually worth reading. I think that's interesting. But the conclusion is what I said at the beginning, that it's not a dollar for dollar return to the other taxing units. It's nearly minuscule. And it would be to our detriment to make any changes like that. So that's the tax impact part of this analysis. Does anybody have any questions about that? Now, the other thing I need to tell you is what the long-term plans for the allocation areas are. That's part of the new law. Recall that these words don't make a lot of sense, but the allocation areas aren't where we're allocating anything, which is what you think. The allocation areas are actually where we're getting the real estate taxes. And we have no long-term plans for those. Nothing's going to change. Anything that happens to our allocation areas is going to happen organically. We're not making changes to our allocation areas. With respect to the development areas where we're spending the money, that's all been online for years as part of our economic development plans. You approved last month a couple changes to that development plan, and that was the US 31 project and the Young's Creek Trail project. There's also there's an I-65 interchange plan that was done a couple years ago, and that has now produced 2 hotels, a better vehicular movement at the McDonald's parking lot, and other improvements. The downtown development plan has produced, throw a ball, or hit something, you're going to hit a project that has been touched by that plan. So, short story on the allocation areas is we're not proposing any changes. The third and final part of this presentation required by this new law is to tell you the budget for the allocated property taxes. And I think you've all seen that before. We don't have a formal budget. Instead, we have a working document that shows our pending projects, our future projects that have received some discussion, and then kind of a pie in the sky list, long-term projects. We are currently scheduled to spend more money than we have coming in this year, so we will not be able to do all the projects that we have on the docket. It's also the reason why the Redevelopment Commission last month decided that it would not be able to turn any TIF revenues back to the other taxing units, because we have more than enough projects to suck up the money that we do have. We get anywhere from $3 to $4 million a year in real estate taxes, and we spend every bit of it. You'll see attached to that handout, paperclip to it, is a spreadsheet. Yours isn't color, but this is it. Yours is just black and white. That shows about the top half of that document are approved projects. and it's showing how the money's coming out by quarter, multi-year per quarter. And then below the bottom half of that is possible projects. That serves as our working document to show where we are month to month. Adjustments are made month to month. If you have good ideas about things, you should let us know, because that's how it works.
I'll back up on
Yeah.
one thing, Rob. We said, we have more projects than our spending, or what we can actually pay for. But what that is, it's a working document that we have, all the projects we have to get done, and some of these projects are gonna be done next year, so the cash flow would be there for the next year. Like, it won't get finished this year, and the money won't be all spent out, but you have to put out the resolution, the full amount. So that's why it may look like that we're spending more than we got, but we're being very careful, the timing wise, working with Krista, Mark, and Rob, and the RDC on the timing part of that, to make sure that doesn't happen. And if that does happen, remember we had that joint meeting with the RDC earlier this year that Jeff Peters has told us a way that we can work around that to not get ourselves in a bind. We won't let that happen. Sorry, Rob, I just wanted to know that.
So I think you can read the handout, but just as an example, just so you know, like the Yandy Street is on the plan. We've got TIF bond from the $15 million bond service that we need to pay. There's shell building payments, flood property to Graham's, roundabouts. It's a long list. You can see all of those. And if you have any questions about those, I'd be happy to try to answer them. The redevelopment commission meets every month, and these projects get discussed. We'd be happy to include you in those discussions. That's all I really wanted to tell you. If anybody has any questions about that, I'm happy to try to answer.
To make a motion or anything like
No.
that?
No, it's just a report. I usually get upset with all of the mandates from the legislature telling us to do recordings and things like that. I think this is one of the good ones, Bob, don't you think? I mean,
I think, the more everybody knows, the better. I think we work better as a team.
yeah, I think so too.
So while Rob's here again, does anybody have any questions?
Well, I always have questions. This is Lisa Littner again. So
Are you picking it up, Kathy, or would you like these? You are?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Do you know the sunset for each TIF district, and do you have any plans for possible new TIF districts?
For new TIF districts? Now, I'm not aware of any plans for new TIF districts. I can't tell you off the top of my head the sunset dates.
Lisa, I just want to say, I don't want to rule that out, and here's why. If we have a business that wants to go on the east side of the interstate, and we have to spend several $1 million in infrastructure, then that may be a point that we want to TIF that business.
Oh, I am not anti-TIF at all.
No,
At all. I'm just saying, like, when you go to the Gateway website to look at TIF information, like, things like, they don't say when they sunset. So, like, I don't, like, how many years has the Mitsubishi one been going on? Because what I've understood is that after that, you can't just say, okay, it's a TIF district again. That you can't redo a TIF district in the same spot, or that's how it is currently.
There is a sunset, right, Rob?
Yeah, some of them are 25 years from the date they
Right.
started.
Like I said, I'm just trying information where I can't ever find the information.
Yes. The last one we had sunset was not Best Buy.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first one.
But I just don't want to lead somebody to believe that I'm against TIF and wouldn't want another TIF. Like Rob has explained tonight, it's well worth having a TIF district. And if the right opportunity arose, then I'm sure we'd want to do that. But I don't see any at this moment that we're looking to do.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Come up, council.
Thanks for breaking it down, Rob. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob. That leads us to council comments. Man, we had a long meeting tonight.
Other business?
Oh, other business, Is there any other business that wants to? Yeah, how about? No comment?
I have nothing additional.
Works?
No comment.
Mark, can you give me an update on when, or maybe Mary can tell me when the phase 8 and 9 is going to be finished? And how's the project's coming? I know we've got a lot of rain, but we're getting punished over here on each side.
Yeah,
Justice Street getting pounded as usual.
the project at this point is on schedule. The contractual completion date is October 15th or the 20th.
Okay.
But
we are on schedule. Interesting.
I think we're pretty well ahead of schedule.
Okay.
I won't commit to anything or say publicly, but I think everybody will be pleasantly surprised.
Great.
We will be moving to, once the storm sewer is completed, we'll be just separated stabilization, concrete work, and then go right into paving.
Thank you. Lizzie, thank you for your continued support out there. We're still needing your help. There's a lot of people running stop signs, craziness out there, so, but I do appreciate the extra controls.
And for those that wasn't here when the chief spoke at the Board of Works, we have written 150-ish tickets to trucks. Yeah, so in the last 6 months. And that's more than we did in the last 2 years, so I appreciate that. And we just had one tear down today. What the damage they did was,
Yeah, we had, one of the truck ended up over on Wayne Street somehow. That's probably, not to pull it down, some lines and damage an actual home, so.
Get them.
But I will tell you,
Raise your fines.
when I was there, well, not only the fines, because we collect those in Franklin City Court, but every one of them that cost us money, where the Board of Works approves the expenditure, Mark processes it, gathers the information, I make claims against our insurance companies, and we don't have any outstanding now. They paid on every single one. In fact, in the clerk's office, they paid twice. One $12,000, one paid, returned it, because it's not broken. We've collected on every bummer.
I'm sure we'll have to, once we start doing these railroad process too, I'm sure we're gonna have trucks moving around too, so that would be another challenge.
okay. Mr. Abbott?
No, just what we talked about earlier before, I just noticed on Main Street between Mutual and Huntington Bank, that telephone power pole had been tilted. That gotta be at least 6-7 degrees.
Maybe we need a truck to hit it, knock it the other way.
Well, you want a truck on Main Street?
Well, if he's gonna be there, I hope he hits some.
Other than that, no, I don't have. Properties on the square was great too.
Okay, so. Hearing
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?